Bonjour! Right, just time for a very quick review. The weekend's drawing to an end, but I just wanted to squeeze this one in there. Although not strictly pond related, if you're looking to embark on a pond build this year, or DIY, or the hobby of woodwork interests you, besides our beloved hobby of expensive fish, yeah, just want to have a quick chat with you regarding budget mitre saws. So I use a mitre saw so much, I would go as far to say at least twice or three times a week. I'm always making, mending, bodging, making something worse. Yeah, it's I do have the table saw, hand saws, etc., but the mitre saw is my go-to. Now recently I had one of the Erber, I think it's pronounced, and I bought it 2 years ago. It's a cheaper brand, had all the bells and whistles on it, but as expected, you get what you pay for. After 2 years of what I wouldn't consider to be heavy use, I would say DIY hobbyist use, it packed up, and I did upload a short, so some of you have seen it. It didn't just pack up, it packed up monumentally. So the spigot, the shaft that goes down and transfers power from the motor to the actual blade, literally shear clear in half. So I mean, if you whack that thing with a hammer, you couldn't break it, yet somehow this cheap little screw fix saw managed to. So if you're in the market for sliding mitre saw, avoid the Erber because it's junk. So I don't like spending a lot on tools. A, because I'm usually skint, and B, because I don't look after them. You have a look around my workshop, most of my stuff, I like to be able to use it. I'm not a tool queen, if you like. I'm not a brand queen. A lot of my stuff's either Milwaukee or it's budget, to be honest with you. So like I say, I'm not a brand queen, I'm not a tool queen. I like things just to work. I'm not interested in cleaning it, other than giving it a quick hoover or a brush off. So I needed something quite solid, but I didn't want to spend the earth. So I got browsing old Tinternet, and Screwfix, which is local to me, they sent me a 10% off voucher, which was handy. So had a look in there, and I came across, so specifically I was looking for a 216mm blade, and I needed it to be sliding. And normally I spend about 150 quid on a mitre saw, but this one was actually, I think, 199.99 at my local Screwfix. I think there's a couple of cheaper deals online, but yeah, 199. I had the 10% off, so I thought, yeah, I'll spend that little bit more. Not overly keen on the Dewalt yellow. It's quite bright, but yeah, it's Dewalt, decent brand, and this is obviously one of their cheaper entry-level saws, but I am hoping that it lasts a bit longer. So in terms of features, it's not got a laser, it's not got a light on it, it won't cut the wood for you. It is just a sliding mitre saw that you press the button and you go. Like I say, my old Erber, my cheap Screwfix Erber, had laser, all this, that and the other on it, and it didn't last 5 minutes. So better off, go simple, go solid. So yeah, so this model is I think it's the DWS773. So it's 216mm blade. It is unplugged, don't panic, before I lose a finger. It's 260mm blade, and one of the key things for me was, you'll see that some of the cheaper mitre saws, they'll actually have a funny sized bore on the blade holder, but this has got a standard 30mm bore, which means I can chop and change between the old blades that I've got. So first thing I did once I got it out of the box, the only thing that you have to put together is the two handles on either side. The fact that it has handles is because it is specifically, really, given its compact size, it's a sight saw. It's designed to be chucked in the back of the van, taken out, whether you're cutting laminate flooring or you're just a junior carpenter, if you like, or joiner. I think it's just aimed to be thrown to bits. So, but the only thing, it took me about 10 minutes just to get the handles on and swap the blade over. So a lot of the work I do is with hardwood and finishing wood. So I've actually changed to the 80 tooth blade. I think this one's a Saxton, possibly. It's Saxton blade. The Dewalt one that comes with it, TCT blade, I think that's 40 tooth, but it is going to be quite a rough cut. So like I say, I've swapped to the 82 without any problems. So 216mm blade, 30mm bore as standard. So motor wise, it's not the most powerful saw on the market. So it's controlled by or powered by a 1300 watt motor that I think spins around 4,500 RPM. Again, my cheap Erba, 1800 watts. What I will say is the 1300 watts of Dewalt power compared to the 1800 watts of the Erba power, this is more powerful. So again, be very careful with those add-ons, be very careful with those figures that they're throwing at people, because sometimes they're just not warranted. Speaking of warranty, so being a Dewalt tool, comes with a standard 3-year guarantee. It is a brushed motor, it's not brushless, therefore it is quite noisy. But again, if you're looking at the entry market, that's not such a big deal. What does make this a very good saw is, as I say, normally sliding mitre saws take up quite a bit of room. But with this one, so it actually uses Dewalt's internal slider mechanism. So what you'd normally have on a sliding mitre saw is, even in its fully back position, you'd have the sliders, they would stick out of the back, which means this has to be set a certain distance from the wall for it to be able to be used. Now my old, I've just got this on a recessed bench so I can lay some of my longer pieces of timber and arch them between, or up them between the actual saw base and the table itself. But normally my old one, it used to sit out here somewhere, so significant difference. I reckon I've cut down the depth of area or space, workspace required by probably a good 250-300mm just by having that internal slider. So cut wise, with the internal sliding mechanism, you are slightly restricted, but depth of wood wise, she'll do you 250mm depth, give or take. Obviously that is cutting at 90 degrees. That'll be reduced if cutting at 45. And depth wise, she'll actually cut around 65mm. Obviously taking you up to the centre of the blade or the spindle. So yeah, so at the moment, in terms of use, so this is, I would say, my only issue with the saw. So when using the saw, the guard that would usually just flip back on a tool as it's brought down, although it gives it a nice, you've got a nice solid metal and ABS plastic, does have the runner wheel as well, which is pretty handy, makes it a bit easier for pulling across the wood. But yeah, rather than having the external guard, if you like, it's actually controlled via the grip. So to release the guard, you push down, which is great, but I was under the assumption that it'd be a case of pushing the guard down and then pulling the power button. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. So what it requires, it actually requires, and like I say, this is the only negative for this saw I can find, requires you to push it in to lift the guard, and then there's a little plastic button here, so that has to be depressed, and then you can start the saw. So that is the only design fault. I'd say if you could use the guard, then fire the button. What I am tempted to do, and I don't suggest that anyone else do this, I'm actually tempted to push the button in, depress the button fully, and then actually pop a bit of glue or adhesive around the edge just to keep that in. Like I say, the fact that you have to lift the guard anyway, which is a nice handy feature. And I will say that the guard actually retracts right back to the back of the blade, which means I know my old one on the Erba and the one before that, it actually only retracted so far, but this does return to its closed, fully closed position. But yeah, I think what I will do is just get a bit of glue, keep that button in. That means when I'm using it, it's just a case of pushing down and then trigger, as opposed to push down, button, trigger, just that 3-stage motion. So just having a look around, in terms of mitres, so it will cater for up to 48 degree mitres, and then you've got your usual stops of 15, 22.5, 30 and 45. I think it is, there's definitely 45 there, but it does cater for your standard mitres. Obviously anything in between that is just a case of tightening the screw on the required angle that you've got. Straight out the box, what I will say is did a test. The guide at the back was 0 degrees in terms of being straight, which I was really impressed with. And also the blade straight out of the box, I've not had to adjust at all. So measured that in 2 directions of 90 degrees, and both have actually come up perfectly straight, which, being honest, my old cheap mitre saw, I wasn't able to get straight at all. There's them handles I was just talking about, obviously coming out of the box that you fit, like my girly plaster. As you can see, again, there's something designed, it weighs around 12 kilos, so having those handles on it, it's designed to be chucked in and out of the van, out on site, in the garden, which for me is absolutely perfect. What I'll do is I'll just run you through a quick cut, and then we'll call it a day. So there you have it. That is the Dewalt 773. I think it's 773 GB if you buy it in the UK. Again, you would have seen there, that was a bit of tulip wood. It has no issues cutting, although it's only a 1300 watt motor. It has got plenty of torque, plenty of power there. And the other thing that I've found with this is the dust extractor. It actually comes down a fair way, a lot more than others that I've seen, so it's pretty effective. I've just got this hooked up to a standard Titan wet and dry vac, and so far you are going to get dust with a mitre saw, but so far it's been pretty proactive at taking it away off to the vacuum down there. Let me just show you that. So all I've got is the Titan vac, and then that runs through a DIY cyclone. So that's just an old paint tin. All it does is stops the dust going back to the vac. So usually I open this up, you've got to stay on top of your game. It's no good letting it build up for months and months and months. But usually when I come to clean the Titan wet vac, that's usually pretty spotless. Most of the dust should be contained in here. So again, it's just from the Titan vac into the top, and then there's a pipe coming out the back, which then feeds into the back of the Dewalt. So there you go. So if you are in the market for a 216mm mitre saw, no bells, no whistles, just good solid product, 190 odd quid. It'll do what it says on the tin, although that is a different brand. Yeah, I don't think you can go far wrong. 190 odd quid well spent. I'll catch you soon.